Chapter 7: The End of a City. On December 8, 1941, Japanese planes bombed Hong Kong's Kai Tak Airport. The war had finally arrived. The city panicked. People rushed to the piers, to the banks, to any escape route. The sound of bombs falling came one after another. Black smoke gathered over the city and wouldn't disperse. James booked a ticket for December 12, to Macau, then to Chongqing. The night before leaving, he held a small farewell party at the apartment. Not many people came, just a few close friends. Siu Nung came too. She wore a dark green velvet dress, jade earrings, her makeup impeccable. She smiled and talked with everyone as if this was just an ordinary gathering. James watched her from afar. These days they hardly saw each other. The divorce was in process, but with the chaos of war, many documents couldn't be processed. Legally, they were still married. Halfway through the party, James walked to Siu Nung. "Want to get some air?" he asked. They went to the balcony. The night wind was cold, carrying the smell of gunpowder. In the distance, some neighborhoods on Hong Kong Island had lost power and were dark. Some places were on fire, staining the sky a strange orange red. "The boat ticket," James said. "I bought one for you too." Siu Nung didn't respond. She leaned on the railing, looking at the collapsing city. "I was thinking," James lit a cigarette, "if one of us was a little more foolish, would we have ended up like this?" Siu Nung turned to look at him. The cigarette's glow brightened and dimmed between his fingers, lighting his thin profile. "If you were more foolish, you wouldn't have seen through the agreement," she said slowly. "If I were more foolish, I would have believed your promise. If we were both more foolish, maybe we could be an ordinary couple now, arguing about daily life, worrying about small things." James smiled, his laughter scattered by the wind. "Too bad we're both too smart. Smart enough to see through everything, smart enough that neither will bend first." "Not smart," Siu Nung corrected him. "Selfish. We both love ourselves too much, so protecting ourselves from hurt is more important than loving each other." Silence spread between them. A distant explosion sounded, low and far away. "You should go," Siu Nung said. "The boat won't wait." "What about you?" "I have my own plans." James looked at her for a long, long time. Then he put out his cigarette and turned to leave the balcony. The party ended in the early morning. Siu Nung was the last to leave. She walked back to the apartment she once shared with James. The divorce wasn't final, so it was still her home for now. The place was empty. James had packed his things. Several suitcases were piled in a corner of the living room. She walked past them into the bedroom and sat at the dressing table. The woman in the mirror was still beautiful, but her eyes held a deep, endless tiredness. She opened a drawer and took out a small glass bottle. Inside was a clear liquid, colorless and odorless. She had bought it on the black market. They said it let you leave without pain. She poured a glass of water, emptied the bottle into it, stirred and drank it all. It tasted a bit bitter but bearable. She walked to the sofa, lay down and closed her eyes. Waiting for death was calmer than she imagined. She could feel life slowly receding from her limbs, like the tide going out, leaving cold sand. Just as her consciousness began to blur, she heard the door open. Footsteps, hurried footsteps. "Siu Nung." It was James's voice. Shouldn't he be at the pier? She tried to open her eyes, but her eyelids felt heavy as lead. Someone picked her up, shook her. "Siu Nung, wake up, what did you drink?" She barely opened a slit. James's face swam in her vision, blurry, overlapping. "Boat," she managed to say. "The pier was bombed, the boat can't leave." James's voice was full of panic. "What did you drink? Tell me." Siu Nung wanted to laugh but couldn't. Fate was so ironic. Even death could be interrupted. She pointed weakly to the dressing table. James rushed over, found the empty bottle, and his face instantly turned pale. Why would you?" "Tired," Siu Nung said, her voice light as a sigh. "Really tired." James knelt before her, clutching her hand tightly. His hand was warm while hers was already cold. "I'll take you to the hospital." "Too late," Seunung interrupted. "And there's a war outside. The hospital can't save me." Tears fell from James's eyes onto the back of her hand. Hot. "Don't cry," she wanted to wipe his tears but couldn't lift her hand. "You should hate me." "I do hate you," James choked out. "I hate you for ruining our marriage, for killing your aunt, for making me love you." Love. That word, he had never said it. Not in their most intimate moments, not in the most vulnerable late nights. Tears also welled in Seunung's eyes. So there had been love between them after all. It just came too late, buried too deep by too many calculations and too many hurts. Outside, the sky suddenly brightened. Not sunrise, it was flares dropped by bombers, lighting the night sky as bright as day. Then explosions sounded, getting closer and closer. James suddenly stood up, went to the window, and yanked hard on the thick curtain cord. With a loud rip, the whole curtain fell down. He went to another window, tore that curtain down too, then pushed the window wide open. Cold wind rushed in, carrying the smell of gunpowder and dust. "What are you doing?" Seunung used her last strength. "The planes will see the light, they'll drop bombs, do." James walked back and sat beside her. He had a strange expression on his face, like relief, or like he had finally made up his mind. "You," he said softly, brushing her cheek with his fingers, "even at death's door you still say the opposite of what you mean." He leaned down, gently gathered her into his arms, letting her lean against his chest. This position was exactly like how they held each other on their wedding night. "You know," he whispered in her ear, "I actually made it to the pier. But I looked back at this city and suddenly thought if I leave you here alone what would happen, so I came back." Seunung's tears kept flowing, wetting the front of his shirt. "Why?" she murmured. "Because the agreement was fake, but a whole life is real." James's voice was soft, calm. "I said if you stay, never leave me for your whole life. You stayed, so I won't leave either." Outside, the roar of bomber formations grew closer. The light from the flares streamed in through the open window, lighting the room like a stage. James helped Seunung to the gramophone and put on a record. The needle dropped, music began. It was that song, "Addicted to Love." "Love is like a string of dreams, waking up, all is empty." He held her, slowly dancing in the middle of the room. Her steps were weak, completely supported by him. Their shadows fell on the wall, swaying gently with the music. "Or maybe I was born too sentimental, toyed with by love." Seunung buried her face in his shoulder. The poison made her whole body cold, but his embrace was so warm. She remembered that rainy night, the spinning in the ballroom, the wedding night promise. After going in circles, they had returned to the beginning. Only this time there were no more calculations, no more suspicions, no tomorrow. Chasing a dream with you, waking now is perhaps too rushed. The explosions were closer. The whole building shook. Dust fell from the ceiling, dancing in the light beams from the flares like golden snow. James stopped dancing, lowered his head and kissed her forehead. "Only afraid when you believe, that deep feeling is thinner than paper." Seunung closed her eyes. In her final awareness there was the sound of his heartbeat, steady, strong, beating against her ear. Once. "All grievances let me return to you, as everything ends." A huge explosion sounded extremely close. The blast wave shattered the windows, glass fragments pouring in like a storm. But before that, James had already wrapped himself tightly around her, using his own back to shield her from the whole world. The music continued. Miraculously, the gramophone wasn't damaged. The needle moved on the vibrating record, the singing still clear amid the roaring and collapsing. "Love is like a string of dreams born in the thoughts." A faint smile appeared at the corner of Seunung's mouth. "If we meet again someday, it will be far away." Her breathing finally stopped. James held her, sitting down amid the broken glass on the floor. He pressed her face against his chest, gently combing her hair with his fingers. Outside, the sky was stained red by fire. The whole city was burning. But he couldn't see, couldn't hear anymore. His world was now only this woman in his arms and that song playing on a loop. He lowered his head and pressed one last kiss to her cold lips. "A whole life," he whispered. "This time it's real." Then he closed his eyes, waiting for the final light or the final darkness. The gramophone kept spinning. The record skipped, repeating the same line over and over. "If we meet again someday, it will be far away. If we meet again someday, it will be far away. If we meet again someday." Far away. Finally, all sound faded away. Only fire remained, and the endless silent night. The end. A note from the storyteller. 3 years after the war ended, someone found a damaged gramophone and a cracked record in the ruins of a bombed apartment on the hillside. After repair, the record only played one constantly repeating line. "If we meet again someday." The finder was a young music student. He set these words to music and performed it at a school event. Someone asked what story the song was about. He thought for a moment and said, "It's a story about how clever people love. They were too clever, so it had to be a tragedy. But if they had been more foolish, they might never have met at all." The audience was silent for a moment, then applause broke out. The student bowed and left the stage. Outside it was raining. As he opened his umbrella, he saw an old couple not far away, sharing a black umbrella, supporting each other as they slowly walked down the wet street. Their backs grew farther and farther away in the rain. Finally, they disappeared into the end of that winter in 1941.